Welcome back to the HITBOMBS YouTube channel. Today we're going to take an inside look into one of my speed training sessions, some of the different tools that I have on hand, and ultimately give you guys the formula of what I've found to be the most efficient way to train speed. All right, so we're getting ready to start my speed session. I already did my dynamic warm-up. I did my iron warm-up, so we're ready to start hitting drivers. Every session that I do from a speed standpoint, I always have a ball count goal. That goal is going to fluctuate based off the time of the year. Ultimately, there are a few details around speed sessions that can make the experience so much better. So first off, you'll notice I rolled out my own turf here on a hard hitting surface. This turf is on the thinner side. We don't want turf that's too spongy. It could actually slow you down a little bit. So very thin turf. I wouldn't recommend hitting irons off of this, but it's great for speed training. Want to make sure that it's also stable so it's not going to move much on the surface that it's sitting on. The next thing is I always like to use a T-claw with the string on it. The T-claw, I always have it aimed square to the mat, and then I have that aimed where I want to visually be looking. We will use tornado tees. So I have my own personal tornado tees that I'll cut to the right length. These are great as you work through speed sessions because that tee will pretty much stay in the same location for the most time. Balls. If you're trying to get accurate reads on balls, I highly recommend you hit the same ball throughout a session, but also you have an idea of where certain balls are. So these are tailor-made balls. I know that these tend to be a little bit on the faster side of the spectrum. If I was trying to set a PR, I would use a specific ball. That's why a lot of times when we're doing that, we'll actually hit into a net. But the downside of hitting into a net is as you get closer to competing or needing to see ball flight, I wouldn't recommend that as, the last thing you want to do is step up in a competition not seeing ball flight for 3 weeks or on the course. That's why today we're going to be outdoors. We need a tool like a GC Quad, a TrackMan, or some other tool that will give us consistent data. And it's important that whatever tool you settle on, you use it from session to session. That way the data is consistent once again. Liquid chalk is a good one. Obviously, different climates, the grip will get a lot stickier. So a lot of times I'll like to apply liquid chalk, especially as I get into a session and my hands start to get sweaty. Some type of energy drink or sports drink. So this is actually just water with electrolytes. There are times I will also consume caffeine. This morning I had a little coffee. If you want to go crazy, you can get into some of the pre-workout stuff or even an energy drink if you're trying to take it up a notch. Backup glove. Obviously gloves will always rip. On that same note, sometimes I'll have backup shafts present. And lastly, a towel. Just to help wipe some of the moisture off. Getting into the ball count, as I mentioned, our goal for today, I'm going to set a goal of 75 balls. One of the reasons is I've recently been practicing. As the season ended, I was practicing in the 50 rep range. So what we want to try to do as we work through this first phase of the off season is we want to start to build endurance. So endurance is an important part. One, you'll find that as you get deeper into sessions, you'll actually get faster. So the first time I ever hit 150 miles an hour, 220 ball speed was actually ball 85 in a 100 ball session. So what I found is earlier in the off season, we want to build that endurance up and hit some of those higher end speeds. And then as we get closer to the season, we want to start hitting those higher speeds a lot faster. So our goal would then to, maybe shrink the ball count, do more regularly, but get to that upper end of speed a lot faster instead of having to rely on 80 balls. Hitting top speed at ball 80 typically doesn't mesh well in the sports science world. A lot of the smarter people that I've talked to mentioned that, at that point, your CNS is probably fatigued, but there is the value of the mechanical aspect. So even though your body might start to be getting fatigued as you are building endurance, the mechanical aspect is improving. Therefore, a lot of times that's what we would attribute to club head speed jumps. Depending on your skill level as a golfer or your age, not everyone is going to be hitting 100 drivers as hard as they can. If If you're used to hitting 10 drivers, then let's work on getting to 20 drivers. If you're used to hitting 40 drivers, let's work on getting to 50 drivers. And so what we're going to try to do is, as we progress through the next weeks, we're going to slowly try to get our ball count up. And the way we're going to do that is each week we're going to up it by 5 to 10 balls and gradually increase that. And then as time goes on, we'll start to see our endurance getting better. You'll start to find certain ranges where your speeds will jump. And then it's important to be conscious of that, because then we want to start monitoring that and hitting those top end speeds a lot faster as the year goes on. Like I said, 75 balls. What I like to do is I like to break my balls out into sets of 10. And it just helps me kind of keep track of the balls as we work through a session. So we're going to get started with the session. I'm not going to do much talking, but we will key in on certain points. For example, kind of what I'm thinking at the end of ball 10. And we'll do that variously as we progress through the session, and we will go from there. So wish me luck. We'll see you on the other side. All right, so we just got done with the first 10 balls. The main thing I'm trying to be conscious of in that first 10 is where my speeds are. I usually know that by ball 10, I should be hitting about 148 miles an hour on the quad. And sometimes, depending on travel, fatigue, as we all have lives, sometimes I'll get into a session and I'll start to realize that I either have it that day and I'm really fast, or I don't have it. So if it's a day where I don't have it, sometimes I'll evaluate the session and determine if I should potentially postpone this a day or two to maximize what we're going to get out of that session. But today the numbers look pretty good, so we're going to keep going forward. You can tell I'm a little out of breath after 10, so I'll basically set out another 10 and then kind of get going from there. The next key point that I focus on is right around the 40 rep range. Where I'm at now is I should be hitting top end speed of what I'm capable of around ball 40. I'm trying to kind of go through these, get my intent up, but also be conscious of kind of where speeds are to, because if they aren't good, I'm evaluating if I should postpone it or not, depending on how I feel. Sometimes you feel better than others. And, on a day like today where I don't feel great, but the speeds are good, it's a sign to keep going. All right, so we just hit ball 40, and basically as expected, I kind of had an idea of where I was going to be at from a speed standpoint. So we hit that point, and basically now I've made the decision to continue on in the session. And like I said, when we're only training one day a week, we want to make sure that we get the most of that session. And some days you have it, some days you don't. So there are days where if I don't feel good or I'm not getting what I want out of it, I'll shut it down, let myself recover, and then start that session over 48 hours later. But we're looking good. So now my goal is to maintain this same intent from ball 40 all the way to ball 75, which is the end of the session. And even maybe I could get into a little bit of a rhythm where we start to see it going up as well. Sometimes you'll see that as your intensity goes up, sometimes it might be you're getting more efficient from a mechanical standpoint. One thing that we also have going here that I don't have playing when I'm talking for audio reasons is music. Music is key, and usually I'll start blasting it around ball 40. We start off a little slower and then start with the heavier stuff as we try to really ramp it up for these last 35 balls. So other than that, I'm going to do another set of 10, and we will see you at the end of ball 75. Whoa, that's the jump I've been missing. Ball speed just jumped. All right, so we just got done with ball 75, a little exhausted, pretty pleased with it. So my goal now as I progress through this first month of training is I'm going to up that ball count by 10. So next session, which will be 1 week from today, will be 85 balls, following week 95 balls, following week 105. So we're trying to slowly build that endurance up and go from there. Guys, it's the little things in these sessions that add up. A lot of the minor details make the experience so much better. The type of turf you're hitting off of, the type of launch monitor you're using, the type of balls you're using, all these things add up. So start to pay attention to them. For more videos on how to increase your club head speed, head over to hitbombs.com. We have a full training blueprint to help any level golfer improve their swing speed and their club head speed and ultimately play much better golf.